Yeah.
And part two to that, I believe you're going to do that with Donald Trump. I'm just telling you that it's not if, it's when, because I am confident you and Donald Trump are going to truly make America great again.
Well, thank you, but I do want to caution against complacency is the only thing.
Correct.
So it's like we just need to be super hardcore about getting every possible vote.
Confidence, you have not complacency.
Yes, exactly. We want to be confident, but not complacent.
Correct.
And so that's why it's like we've got to just be total evangelists about the voting. Yep. And really every vote counts, and just make sure everyone you know is registered. The deadline for registration in Pennsylvania is
Monday.
Midnight Monday. Like you can register online, it's super easy, but like hound everyone you know to get registered, because after midnight on Monday, you can't. It's no good.
And this is a silly question, but when you cut the government spending and you have a stack of all these deregulations, can you live stream on X and use not a flamethrower and burn that into the ground?
Yeah. Great idea. Yeah. I think a bonfire of nonsense regulations would be epic. Yeah. And you know, sometimes people are concerned, like, well, what if there's some regulation that's actually really important, and we get rid of that, and say, well, you know what, we'll put it right back. Problem solved. So, all right.
Well, Mr. Musk, thank you for speaking directly with the voters of the United States. Pretty great of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Removing yourself from the equation, what does it say about the Biden-Harris administration and the would-be Harris administration that that they haven't worked with such great American companies such as SpaceX, Tesla, and then even speak out against X?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty weird. You know, yeah, because it was kind of a surprise, because it's like, you know, Biden, you know, for example, had that like electric vehicle summit at the White House 6 months after getting inaugurated, and specifically excluded Tesla, even though Tesla makes more electric cars than ever. Yeah, it was not cool. And then credited GM with driving the electric vehicle revolution. And that was the second event. And then in that quarter, GM shipped 26 electric cars, and Tesla shipped 300,000. So I'm like, and you know, Tesla's at this point about 140,000 people. It's like there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears from 140,000 people working hard to make great electric cars. You know, to be sort of cold-shouldered like that for no reason, it's like, what's the deal? You know, that was wrong. So, yeah, and then there was like that crazy thing where SpaceX competed for the Rural Broadband Initiative, which, and by the way, I'm actually generally against subsidies and incentives. You know, like we should let taxpayers keep their money, is my opinion. But they had this like $42 billion thing, and we competed and we won, and we would have actually been able to supply a lot of Starlink terminals to the states that were affected by the hurricanes, and they revoked the award. It's messed up. Like, why? And then to date, that $42 billion program, total number of citizens that have received broadband from that $42 billion allocation is 0. Now that's, if you want to see the $42 billion for 0, I would call that waste. Yeah, that's waste. That is not a good use of money. You know, so there was also a big government initiative, I think $7 billion, something like that, for a nationwide network of electric superchargers. And I think they had made like 10. I'm like, this is the most egregious waste of money. And there's so many situations like that. So, you know, it just goes to like bureaucrats and consultants, and nothing gets done. And it's wasting your money, which is crazy. So what I'm saying is like this, there's the opportunity to reduce government waste is actually, I think, easy because there's so much of it. You know, it's not like it's they just don't care about your money, which is messed up. And so I think the Department of Government Efficiency is going to face a target-rich environment for reducing cost.
Hi, Elon. I've been waiting years for you to join the MAGA movement, so we're so glad you did.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, you keep repeating that most of these things we believe in are common sense, and I really feel like they are.
Yeah.
Do you have any woke friends, and how do you deal with them?
Well, I mean, I have been red pilling my friends like crazy lately. So I've fewer and fewer work friends. At least they're still friends, but they're not work. So you know, I think where where the sort of the sort of good interpretation of the woke movement is that we want to have empathy for our fellow human beings, and of course we want to have empathy for our fellow humans. I strongly believe we should care about humanity and we should care about the future, but we need to have empathy that is deep, not shallow. Shallow empathy is caring about criminals, but deep empathy is caring about the victims of the criminals. And so why do we have repeat violent offenders released on the streets, often with no bail? It's crazy, and they prey upon people, innocent people, and then our streets are not safe. And how can America be the greatest country in the world and we don't even have safe streets? This is so crazy. I was talking to my mom, and she was saying, like, just this year, like three of her friends have been assaulted in New York. And I said, well, was anyone arrested? No. They didn't even try. We can't have this. People deserve to have safe cities and secure borders and the basic stuff like that. Yeah. So I think it's. I do feel that there's a shifting of shifting of perception, and I think I hope I'm not being too optimistic, but so I'm a naturally optimistic person, obviously, but I do feel as though that there's a shift in the national mindset, and a shift to more to just common sense and not believing everything the media tells you. And I think actually in the U.S. people are starting to realize that the legacy media is just a propaganda machine, and in Europe they still believe the news. So we got to work on Europe. They still think the news is real. But here, thanks to X and just people being, I think, maybe a bit more aware and having an actual free speech constitutional amendment has helped Americans, understand what is actually real. And I mean, I do find it remarkable, like just how sort of coordinated the legacy media is in their talking points. It's absurd. And kudos to those who put together the compilations of where all of the talking heads will say the same thing, word for word. Yeah, and they'll say the exact same thing, and but I mean, I think the propaganda is not even good, frankly. It's not even entertaining, and so the week before the Biden-Trump debate, every media organization was saying that Biden's sharp as a tack. It was the exact same words: sharp as a tack, over and over again. Then it became obvious to the public that he was indeed not as sharp as a tack. but then immediately the legacy media pivoted to knifing Biden and anointing a successor. So we see this over and over again, and yeah. So anyway, but that's why we need to have the voice of the people, and that's why I felt it was necessary to acquire Twitter and you know. The whole point of acquiring Twitter was to restore the voice of the people. So. And it's important to note that that while the far left activists that used to control Twitter obviously did extreme censorship of voices on the right, there has been no censorship of voices on the left. They suspended a sitting president. Twitter suspended a sitting president, which is insane. But there's been no suspension or censorship or shadow banning or anything of anyone on the left. So it's a level playing field. But I think that the reason that the sort of far left activists want unanimity in all social media platforms and in all legacy media is that their ideas do not stand the light of day. That is the reason. They actually don't stand up. And so unless everyone is parroting the same thing, their ideas will fail. So.
Hello, Mr. Musk. My name is Zion Thomas, and I was gonna ask for $1 million, but my parents told me to keep it professional. So.
Well, it's actually still possible that you may win that, and so.
But yeah, so you taking over Twitter was awesome. I want to know what other radical ideas you have to save our nation while working with Trump.
Yeah. Well, I try to be as literal as possible. So the values stated on the Ad America, the America PAC website and X account, I try to be just as straightforward and literal as possible. So that's why it's sort of safe cities, secure borders, sensible spending, protect the Constitution, especially the right to free speech, and these are all, like I said, things that seem very obvious and frankly normal, but they're not being done, and they're in severe danger if the Kamala machine wins. So.
Hi, I'm Nikki, and I've been working with voter registration, and a lot of people are concerned about the escalation in the U.S. military in Israel because there's over 100 troops there on land now. What do you think of this idea? A boring company offering to build an island off the coast of Israel and call it Palestine. They can finally have their nation state like Cyprus. It's been done in China, Dubai, and the Philippines, and we can finally end these endless wars. Could there be enough rubble in Gaza to do it? Thank you.
Well, Gaza is a thorny problem indeed. The Middle East has been an area of contention, for thousands of years. I would say that I do not know the solution to that difficult situation there. I'm not sure there is. I'm not sure there is a good solution. There may be, but I think we need to make sure that America is solid. I'm like, let's just make sure America is strong, and I do think we interfere too much in what other countries do, and a lot of our attempts at regime change. In fact, the success of the State Department in achieving regime change is terrible. So there's all this effort spent, all this money spent trying to affect regime change in various countries, but failed in Cuba, failed in Iran, failed in North Korea, Russia, who was wait, where were the successes? But a lot of people died, and a lot of money was spent, but no, what good has come of it? So I think we should interfere with other countries a lot less.
Hi, Elon. My name's Luke. I'm a local liberty lover who lives just across the river, actually. I find the idea that basically everything that we care about is dependent on a single federal election to, for lack of a better word, be unacceptable. So what I and some colleagues of mine have talked about is decentralization and localism, specifically nullification at the state and local level of the federal Leviathan.
Yeah.
At the state level, the 10th Amendment Center has done great work. The basis of nullification is the 10th Amendment, the idea that no powers.
I mean, I agree the federal government should get off people's backs.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you believe that nullification is a viable path forward to getting that done?
Well, I can't speak to whether that is legally, would legally stand up or not. I mean, but I think if there's an executive branch, and we also need to, try to win the Senate and the House. But if there's, a consensus that the federal government should do less and restore power to the states and to the communities, which I think should be the case, then I think we can make that happen. Yeah.
Hi, Elon. My name is Edward. And one of the really great things about going to these rallies are the people that you meet. Tuesday at the J.D. Vance rally, I spoke to some young students and they wanted to be healthcare professionals. And the hardest thing for them to deal with was the financial obligations of doing it, trying to get an apartment and everything else. And I mean, I went to Germany and college is free over there. So there's no one in the world that can tell me that America can't do it better. Well, can you help those Rileys of the world out, please?
Well, I think that there are a lot of issues with college education. It's gotten very expensive because the administrative portion of colleges and universities has grown dramatically compared to the educational portion. So if you say, like, how much is actually spent on teaching people? Very little. So I think that you've got these sort of administrative groups that far outnumber the actual number of professors, and like there isn't actually a need for college to be so expensive. It should be far less expensive, but the sort of bureaucratic creep and the administrative burden have grown dramatically over time, and that is what has caused college to be so expensive. It doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, but there is. I mean, if we do sort of make college free, we have to be careful about that because then it's open season for wasteful spending at universities. And like then, however bad it is now, there's going to be even worse in the future. I think we need new universities to compete with the existing ones. Because what actually matters is how good is your education, not how much was spent on administrative BS, you know. So, I also think that like the value of a college education is somewhat overweighted, you know, and I think it's too many people actually spend 4 years, accumulate a ton of debt, and then often don't have useful skills that they can apply afterwards. And I think I have a lot of respect for people who work with their hands, and we need electricians and plumbers and carpenters, and you know, that's a lot more important than having incremental political science majors. I think, you know, so I think we should not have this idea that to be successful, you need to have a 4-year college. That is simply not true.
Hello, Elon. My name is Dean. It's a pleasure to meet you. My question is, as we near the election, I know you're covering a lot of ground going to battleground states. How important do you think ad buys will be this election? Because in 2020, Mike Bloomberg, we know, spent a vast amount of money trying to get Biden into the White House. So are you looking into that? And yeah, that's my question.
Well, actually, I'm not sure. I mean, the amount of money spent on advertising in the battleground states is truly staggering. And in fact, the Democrats are outspending Republicans dramatically. Depending on how you count it, I think it's like 2 or 3 times more money is being spent by Democrats than Republicans. And in addition, they have the legacy media on this side, and they have a whole bunch of Hollywood celebrities on this side. So it's remarkable that this election is in contention at all, given that they have really, you know, all that on their side. But I guess you got to reach people with a message somehow. So I think probably, you know, we do need to do more advertising, just so that people hear the message. But in my opinion, the thing that's actually most important is getting friends, family, acquaintances, anyone you run into, to register to vote and then to actually vote. So it's and this election could be decided by, you know, 1,000 people, 100 people. It could be a very tiny margin. So every incremental person makes a difference. And I've seen some numbers where and I think there's a lot of people that have, a lot of Republicans that have requested absentee ballots, but they have not mailed them in. I'm like, guys, mail it in. Come on, just mail in your ballot. You can do it. Have it in your mail it in. Now would be a good. And if you mail, you can bring. So I think to encourage people to vote, like I said, I'm really emphasizing this registration point because we've only got a couple days left for registration. So that's why it's the top priority is get people registered before Monday night, and then make sure they vote. And I would recommend voting early. And then you can check to see if your vote's been received. You know, I think there should be a lot more Republicans voting early. Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Musk. It's a pleasure to be able to speak to you. Thank you so much for pushing the world forward in every industry, and I'm sure you'll be doing it in politics. My question is, given the recent hacking of Donald Trump, how important do you think it is for the tech industry and government to back platforms that prioritize privacy and secure communications, such as Signal? And do you see an opportunity for your companies to partner with this platform or to better protect user data or even safeguard government communications?
Yeah. I mean, there's always this debate between you know, privacy and security, but I think the bias should be towards privacy. You know, we should not trust the government, really, and we just shouldn't. So, and I'd say even if I'm in the government, don't trust the government. Like, that's it's just, you know, we've got to protect the privacy of citizens, and you know, and make sure that people really have their liberty and they're not being spied on or, you know, manipulated. So, you know, yeah. So I think we need to make sure that there are not like backdoors and weird things and that where the government can, you know, spy on and potentially, you know, take action against people. Yeah.
Hey, Elon. My name's Ron Blauk. I'm from Harrisburg. Before I ask my election question, I just have to tell you that I accidentally caught the launch and catch of both sections of Starship on live, and it was breathtaking, which I know everyone in here knows, but I want you to be acknowledged for the level of inspiration that you're creating worldwide. I was cheering in my office, like watching this thing go down. And so thank you for that.
No, you're most welcome. I mean, I think it was yeah, I mean, it certainly inspired me, and that's a testament to the incredible work by the SpaceX team. Very talented, super hardworking team, and you know the making rockets fully and rapidly reusable is really what's going to open up space for humanity and enable us to have a base on the moon and build a city on Mars and be a spacefaring civilization. So a lot of people don't realize the difference between like an expendable rocket and a reusable rocket is like 10,000%. It's literally at least. You can think of it just the difference between, what does it cost to, fill up a car versus buy a car. It's the same difference for rockets. If you have to, if a new rocket is needed every flight, that's super expensive and difficult. But if you only have to refill the rocket, it's dramatically cheaper, just like it is for a car or an airplane.
Understood. Pulling that off and doing the catch and the landing in the ocean was just so stellar.
Yeah.
All right. So my question is on election night 2020. I sat down to watch the returns and I watched them steal the election. All right. I saw it live, watched it all night. Okay. If you were watching it then, you knew at 9 o'clock when Fox declared Arizona that it was going down, and that was the moment. Okay. But even worse than that was over the next months watching the courts and the shenanigans in the courts and the lack of good representation that Trump had, and just nothing happening because there was obviously a problem. Nothing seemed to be happening in the courts at all. And between that day and now, it doesn't look like anything has changed. And so we're about to I think the votes matter, but the count is what matters. And if the courts are corrupted, we're not going to get anywhere. And so are you participating in that? It seems as though you're aware of that. How can you help solve that issue so that we don't have that problem again?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if the margin of victory is high enough, then I think it can exceed any sort of cheating that may take place. So we got to aim for just a massive margin. That's the key. It's really aim for a margin that it is impossible to have any shenanigans. But on the X platform, I certainly would invite people to, if there's any voting issues, if people think there's a fraud, then post the images, post the videos, post the evidence, and let's shine a bright light on. And the brighter the light, the harder it will be to cheat.
Hi, Elon. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Thank you for the work you're doing for humanity. There are a lot of changes happening in our world right now, a lot of changes happening in our own country, and these changes are being perceived as chaos. But I always say that if it wasn't for chaos, we wouldn't be able to experience peace. If it wasn't for chaos, we wouldn't be able to experience growth and evolution. And with AI being the new kid on the block and advancing at an incredible pace, I guess my question is, how do you foresee the election of President Donald Trump influencing technological advancements and societal transformation?
Well, I think reducing this sort of strangulation by overregulation is a super big deal. The rocket that we were just talking about, it was sitting on the launch pad for 2 months waiting for paperwork to be processed, and it's just insane that that the SpaceX team can build a giant rocket faster than the government can move paperwork from one desk to another. Like, that's just crazy. And the problem is that's getting worse and worse every year. So if that trend continues, it's just going to be illegal. We just won't be able to get anything done. So that's why I call it like this extreme overregulation, where there's just new agencies being created every year. And the difficulty of getting anything done is like the square of the number of agencies involved. So if there's one agency, it's like one, but if there's like 3 agencies, it's like 9 times harder because they all have to meet with each other. We get crazy things like SpaceX got fined $140,000 for dumping potable drinking water on the ground at Starbase where we launched the rocket, because we cool the launch pad with water, and in an excess of caution we said, we're going to bring in drinking water just to be sure, and we're going to cool the pad with that. We didn't know there was a permit needed for that. Water falls from the sky all the time. Starbase is in a tropical thunderstorm area. It rains so much that the roads get flooded. Why are we getting fined for a tiny amount of water on the ground? But the EPA said they're not going to process any future applications for launch unless we pay this fine. So we just got, held for ransom basically, and that's tip of the iceberg. I got a bunch of sort of nutty stories. Some of them are, I guess, kind of funny. There's, we had to do this. SpaceX had to do the study to see if Starship would hit a shark, and I'm like, it's a big ocean, there's a lot of sharks. It's not impossible, but it's very unlikely. And said, well, you have to, this is, I think, from National Marine Fisheries, one of the, NIMF it's called. They were like, well, you have to do the study on whether you can hit a shark. We're like, what? And then we said, okay, well, fine, we'll do the analysis. And then, well, can you give us the shark data? They're like, no, we can't give you the shark data. Well, like, okay, well, then we're in a bit of a quandary. How do we solve this this shark probability issue? And they said, well, we could give it to our Western division, but we don't trust them. And I'm like, am I in a comedy sketch here? And they're they're worried about the shark density data, like the people who hunt sharks for shark fins somehow getting their hands on this shark data. And so eventually, I think we got the data, and we could run the analysis to say, like, yeah, the sharks are going to be fine. But they wouldn't let us proceed with launch until we did this crazy shark data, and then we thought, okay, now we're done. And they said, but what about whales? I'm like, when you look at a picture of the Pacific, what percentage of the surface area of the Pacific do you see as whale? Because look at a picture, I don't see any. It's like, where's a whale? And honestly, if the ship did hit a whale, it's like, honestly, that whale had it coming, because it's like the odds are so low. It's like Final Destination, the whale edition. It's like fate had it in for that whale, and so we have to do the whale analysis. And it's like, okay, yeah, the whales will be fine too, It goes on. And then there's like, well, what if the rocket goes underwater, then explodes, and then the whales have hearing damage? Like, this is real. This is actually, and we're like, look, if we could make a rocket go underwater and be a submarine, that would be like a feat of physics we could not accomplish, okay? This is not how it works. So anyway, just one like crazy thing after another, where, so this is why I'm really feeling the pain of the overregulation. And there's like multiple federal agencies that have overlapping, they're all doing the same thing basically. So anyway, we got to stop this madness, because we just won't be able to get anything done.
Hi, Mr. Musk. Thank you so much for doing everything that you do to try to save our republic. I am a citizen journalist. I started a small community newspaper in Strasburg, Pennsylvania, called the Strasburg Herald, to fight the fake news. That was in 2021. Since then, as you know, the mainstream media is corrupt. I frankly feel threatened, and they are sabotaging, the big tech companies are sabotaging, shadow banning, and redlining my content. Google, Meta, Newsbreak. Right now, as I'm speaking to you, Meta is now allowing me to promote election ads, and I've given them everything that they needed. So my question to you is, would you consider establishing a citizen journalist association, an organization that could help us fight this giant beast that we can't take on by ourselves, and provide training, a code of ethics and protections so that we could get the work done?
Yeah, I agree with you. There should not be it should not be okay for Google or Meta or anyone else to preferentially show left-leaning media, because then how do people even know what's going on? So and it's sort of, yeah. I mean, apart from X, I mean, they're pretty much all sort of controlled by left-wing activists, and right, and then but that's obviously unfair. It's so. I think they should be compelled to show content from all sides. They shouldn't be allowed to put their thumb on the scale and with political bias, because if they are doing that, then they're entering the political game, and then they're subject to political punishment. Well, I think
There's a lot on X, and we don't have the funds to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
With lawfare, they can shut us down with lawfare. They can sue us for any reason, and the burden's still going to be on us to protect ourselves, to defend ourselves.
Yeah, I think that this is really a situation where the federal government should be saying that if a company has like 70% of the search market like Google does, Microsoft's got most of the remaining 30%. It's a duopoly. They have to be fair in what they show. They can't be biased, because otherwise they're I think falling afoul of antitrust. So that's but I think if it's not done at the federal level, I think that's the only level where you can actually exert influence on giant companies. And it's really just to say, like, hey, you got to be fair and show, and not put a political thumb on the scale. It's not right. So, and this, I'd say there's another big factor, which is that there's a lot of the advertisers also exert political pressure, which is, I think, not okay. So then there's all these moves with these like fake NGOs with nice sounding names like Center for Countering Digital Hate. Of course, who wants digital hate? But actually they're just a left-wing censorship organization. And so they push these boycotts of any publication that doesn't support left-wing views. And so they just try to starve out any publications that have even sort of centrist views. So.
Hi, Elon. I'm David Fox. I'm a husband, a father, a grandfather, a small farmer, a carpenter, a heavy metal musician.
Excellent.
A Teamster truck driver with over 1 million miles of safe driving.
Oh, you're a talented man.
So if you happen to know a guy who might need a secretary of transportation, let me know.
Okay.
But anyway, I was supporting Trump since 2015. And we all know that the Democrats are going to throw everything they got against you and against Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a given.
100%.
But my question really is, what the worst part is the neocon, milquetoast, naked Ken doll Republicans.
Yeah.
Which I stole that line from Jesse Kelly, if anybody knows.
True. This sort of the uni-party people.
Right. I mean, it just seems like they're the worst, that they would be the worst.
The fake Republicans.
Yeah. They would be the worst threat to the agenda of anyone, because you already know what the Democrats are going to do.
Yep.
So I don't think that those people know how much regular people like us despise those people.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got to vote them out.
Yes.
That's really what it is. And my question is, has there been any talk at all about what to do after we win with those people? Because we already, like I said, we already know what the Democrats are going to do, but what about, the Lindsey Grahams of the world, or the John Cornyn's, or the Mitch McConnell's or, because you know what they're going to say. They're going, well, there's nothing we can do. That's how they're going to act.
Well, I think what we've got with, we've really got a rare opportunity here with Donald Trump, who's a real person, who's not beholden to those interests. Because, yeah, this is a rare kind of once in a lifetime opportunity. Because, very often, like you think there's a difference between the Democrat candidate and the Republican candidate, but they're kind of like the uniparty. They're just one, they actually share, they're going to do the same thing. So then if they're going to do the same thing, well, then voters don't, it's a fake choice. But with Donald Trump, I think we've got an opportunity for someone who is his own man and who is not beholden to these interests, and we can affect some serious change.
Well, hey, Elon, I know you have a burning question for me. If I'm Indian or Jamaican, I'm born in India.
All right.
And
Well, I was born in Africa. It's kind of weird, but
oh, there you go.
it's true.
So faith, family, and freedom are my guiding principles. What are your guiding principles? And as a divorced mom, I have a 14-year-old son and a 12-year-old daughter. So could you give them the best advice you could give them as an African American?
Sure. Well, I mean, my advice is generally to try to, it sounds maybe like a platitude, but it's really just, it's like try to be as useful as possible. Try to give more than you take. And I think if you're doing an honest day's work, you should be very proud of that. And that's a great thing. So, yeah.
I struggle with mom jokes. So do you have a best dad joke for them?
Now, what happens? I mean, dad jokes. I mean, I guess I probably, for some reason, I can't remember any dad jokes right now.
I have one.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
What do you call a hen looking at lettuce?
I don't know.
Chicken Caesar salad.
Okay. I mean, a friend did tell me a joke that I thought was pretty good, which is, it's like my roommate thinks I'm a paranoid, delusional schizophrenic. Joke's on him. I don't have a roommate. So.
Hi, Elon. I'm Charles. I'm a Gen Zer, so I'm in college right now in Pennsylvania. I'm a little nervous talking to the richest man in the world, but I have a quick financial question, actually. Like, you're the richest man in the world. You're the best person to talk to. So I want to start a family in the next coming years. I'm a Christian man, and that's something I want to do.
Great.
But obviously, with this, with our country's financial state right now, it's really hard to get a house, let alone pay my student loans. So I know the average age of getting a house right now is like 34. So what advice would you give to Gen Zers and younger people trying to build a family, trying to start a family and get a house? What advice would you have for that? And then I guess I can
answer that question if you like.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, my recommendation really would be do not delay having a family. Even if things are tough, it's really like there's a baby crisis. The birth rate has plummeted. The birth rate in the United States has been below replacement rate since roughly when I was born in 1971. So that's a long time. And it's continued to decline every year. So, I think if there's no humans, means no humanity. So something's got to happen to turn around this crazy low birth rate, or we'll simply disappear. I think even if things are financially difficult, it's still, go for it with regard to a family. And then regarding housing costs, I think the thing that's driving up housing costs is the crazy overregulation. It's like so hard to build new houses, and to meet all these regulations, the regulations stifle new housing creation. So I think if we can alleviate the crazy number of regulations for houses, people want to keep them safe, then the cost of a new house should fall dramatically. So, and what was the second one?
Yeah, just one quick serious question. Can I get a Cybertruck? No, I'm just kidding.
All right.
Hi, Elon. My name is Katie. I am an electrical engineer, and I have heard you in the past speak about promoting STEM degrees as well as trade degrees, individuals who work with their hands into politics. Because frankly, I'm really sick of seeing dumb people ruining our country. And so, do you have any plans with America PAC to do that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I do think we need more of our talented people in America going into engineering and into the technical trades and building things, essentially. We have too many of our smartest people go into law and finance, which is both a criticism and a compliment. But I think we've got too many people in America in law and finance. Not that we shouldn't have some, but we've got too many. And there should be more that are doing engineering and manufacturing and building things. That's I think, a better use of our best talent. I mean, I certainly have done everything I can to promote engineering and and building things as a career. I think it's a good career. If you've built a product that someone loves, then you've done a really good thing. And so I think, yeah, and more people should do that. Yeah, so.
First off, thank you for this amazing opportunity. A forum like this can only exist when and where there is free speech. And thank you so much for bringing that to the forefront in this election, because it's absolutely what is on the line. So I know this is being live streamed. So if you are at home and you have not registered to vote, please do so. Please get out and vote. Vote early. And please sign the petition at the AmericanPAC.org.
Yeah.
So thank you. But it sort of leads into my question here. Your positions on fundamental freedoms and government oversight and efficiency are well documented. Are there any other issues important to you that haven't been as widely covered, and how would a second term for President Trump be relevant to those issues?
Well, I try to, like I said, try to be as clear and literal as possible. Like I said, that's why we've got certain basic priorities, like the safe cities, secure borders, sensible spending, protection of the Constitution, and all of those things are problematic today. So we have to address those fundamental issues, or nothing else matters. And like I said, I think deregulation actually will unleash a new wave of prosperity that is much greater than people realize. For people that are in the audience and out there that try to build things and get things done, you know how difficult it is with permits and one agency after another getting in the way, and it causes the prices to rise, and it stalls progress. So I think people don't quite realize just how much prosperity deregulation will bring. President Trump in his last term, thankfully, did some amount of that. But the last really big push for deregulation was Reagan in the early '80s, and that actually that unleashed a wave of prosperity. It was great. They used to control like airline prices, and everything was regulated, and it was stifling progress. And Reagan had a big deregulation push, and it was amazing. And the '80s were great, and '90s were great, actually. So, yeah. I mean, I lived through the '80s and '90s, and they were great. So I think actually you'll see you'll see just how much better it is if progress is not stifled by overregulation. It's really a big deal. All right.
Hey, Elon. My name's Dean. I'm an engineering student here in Pennsylvania. My family moved out here from my home state of New Jersey because me and my brother were facing some injustices regarding the COVID vaccine mandates a couple of years ago.
Yeah, those were crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really nutty. I mean, like, I'm not anti-vaccine, but I'm anti-forcing people to take a vaccine. That's for sure.
Well, also the COVID vaccine did not work.
Yeah, and and suppressing information about it and side effects, that was terrible. So, you know, it was like, you know, the Biden-Harris administration tried to mandate that any company that has any federal contracts, which is most companies, would be forced to vaccinate everyone at the company, or that person would have to be fired. Now, thankfully, that was shot down by the Supreme Court. But like, that's insane. That is a massive infringement on your liberty.
Yeah, so speaking to you right now, I mean, I recognize the magnitude of it, that I'm grateful for the opportunity to have your ear for a moment. And I wish I could, you know, talk about more than I'm going to be able to talk about right now with you, but I would like to touch on the topic of education reform. I've heard you express in the past some dissatisfaction with the way we go about education today. I found your concept of levels that a student can advance at his own pace to be compelling. If we include students, teachers, and administrators as occupations, education is the industry that employs the most people in the country. Our brightest minds are usually traversing the education system for their entire youth and early adulthood. Do you think it would be within the scope of the Department of Government Efficiency to try and investigate how we can minimize the misuse of Americans' money and, more importantly, their time by providing ways to streamline the process, avenues to certify oneself with aptitude tests, and somehow counteract the unproductive arms race of credentials and degrees?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. No, I think it's pretty nutty. Like, I mean, ironically, if you look at how Americans have performed in you know, in academic tests since the establishment of the Federal Department of Education, it's been downhill. So, like, why are we spending all this money for worse results? And then there's a lot of the money in education is actually for pushing propaganda, you know, instead of teaching kids the facts about the world, like, you know, things that are actually useful. So we definitely need to stop the propaganda, the pushing of the propaganda in schools, and teach kids skills that are actually useful. So, you know, and yeah, I'm a big believer in that. So.
Hi, Elon. Thanks for taking the time to do this. This is fantastic. My question involves regulation. Tesla full self-driving has the potential to save tens of thousands of lives per year. What do you think is the right way for regulators to look at the technology, and what factors do they look at to try to get to the goal of unsupervised self-driving? And I've seen its growth over time. I've been a beta tester since the safety score, and 12.5, 0.4.1 drove me here with zero intervention.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I think, yeah, I think that would be a good thing for there to be a federal mandate for self-driving. And really, the threshold should just be that do you have a statistically significant proof that when the car is in self-driving mode, that the probability of injury is much lower than if it's manually driven. You know, like well above the margin of error. Like, let's say it's like, I don't know, 50% or 100% better with 1 billion miles of driving. So if you've got a large data set and clear data to back it up, then I think you should obviously allow self-driving as soon as it is obviously safer than manual driving. It's pretty straightforward, I think.
Hi, Elon. My name is Molly Hughes. I'm an engineer from Lancaster. And I just want to say thank you for all you've done for free speech. And I realize that's saying almost nothing at all in proportion to what it's meant to all of us. My question is, given that Marxist ideology is responsible for the death of 100 million people in the 20th century, why do you think it's making a resurgence, and what can we do to help combat it in our daily lives?
I mean, I agree with you. It's kind of blowing my mind that, like, I thought that was a dead philosophy, but it's alive and well in a lot of our educational institutions. You know, I think part of it is that you've got these a lot of colleges with these giant endowments that insulate them from reality. So you can sort of have this fake communist utopia at a university because they don't have any feedback loop to reality because they got these giant endowments and a ton of government funding too. So that allows them to be disconnected from the realities of you know, the free market. They take advantage of the free market, but they live in a sort of pseudo-communist world in a lot of these colleges. So they just don't get it. But it is remarkable, and there are a lot of memes about this, because like, how often do we need to run this experiment? You know, it should be very obvious that the economic structure, the economic philosophy that is the good one, is the one that does not need to build walls to keep people in. You know, so it's pretty like, you know, North Korea it builds a wall to keep people in. You know, East Germany had to build walls to stop people from going to West Germany. You know, the Berlin Wall was built by East Berlin, not West Berlin. So the philosophy that has to build a wall to keep people in, that's the bad one. Okay. I don't know how it's so obvious. And yet you see a resurgence of it over and over again. And if you study history, actually, even in ancient times, this was you see the cycle of you know, it obviously wasn't called Marxism 2,000 years ago or 3,000 years ago, but you have this back and forth between free market and sort of government, and free market and government, and it just seems to be the natural cycle of things. Yeah, but obviously I'm a big believer in the free market, which is, the free market is just like, let people buy the things they want to buy and let people make the things they want to make. It's not that complicated. You know, and I find it bizarre that people think the government is a solution to things when a government is just a corporation in the limit. The government is just the biggest corporation of all with a monopoly on violence. And so if you're against corporations, you should be definitely against giving it to a monopolistic corporation that has control over violence. I mean, you know, there are good people that work in the government, obviously, but the government is just we should have the least amount of government because it's an operating system that makes people less efficient. Like their output is dramatically less. If you can look at, say, the output of North Korea versus South Korea. In North Korea, they're starving, and South Korea is extremely prosperous. West Germany was very prosperous, and East Germany was not. And those are random lines drawn on a map. So you know, it should be, I don't know, like I said, super obvious what the right path is. Yeah, you know, competition keeps companies honest, and you want companies competing to serve consumers. I mean, I'm obviously, you know, preaching to converted here, but yeah, yeah, like another way to think of it is like you know, almost everyone's been to the DMV, okay? So, you know, the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, that's the government. And more government is just the DMV at scale. So like how much more do you want to give the DMV to do? I'd say like not much, you know? So it's, you know, we should minimize, because it just doesn't have a feedback loop for improvement. Like if if you don't get good service from the DMV, they're a monopoly, and you can't do anything about it. Whereas if there are companies competing to serve consumers, you can switch your business to the other company. It's pretty straightforward. So yeah, yeah. So.
Hi, Elon. My name is Rebecca Gilbert. Thank you so much for being here. My question is, what role do you think AI should play in our democratic republic? And how do you think it can be used to uphold our constitutional freedoms? And what do you think will be the potential consequences of creating AI that is far more intelligent and capable than human beings, with the exception of you, of course?
Well, I do worry about AI actually, because we are creating an intelligence that ultimately will be far more intelligent than any human, and ultimately more intelligent than the sum of all humans. So in creating AI, we need to be very careful and it's like having a sort of a genius child. You want to have that child grow up with good values. I think the most important thing in training AI is that it's rigorously truthful. Even if that this is very, very important, essential, and my concern about a lot of the AIs that are being developed are that they're trained to lie, and in some cases with potentially disastrous consequences. I mean, when Google Gemini came out, people asked like, which is worse, misgendering Caitlyn Jenner or global thermonuclear war? And it said misgendering Caitlyn Jenner. I'm like, that's a problem, guys. Because if this AI becomes super powerful, it could decide that the best way to avoid misgendering is to kill all humans, which makes the probability of misgendering 0. So it's very important to have AI be maximally truthful and curious and love humanity. Very important. So.
Hey, Elon. I'm the guy with the Dale Earnhardt Cybertruck. If anybody wants to drive it after this, let me know. I was recently banned on Facebook for a meme that I shared 5 years ago.
Wow.
Completely
Seriously?
gone. Yeah, it's
Like
ridiculous.
recently?
You can't even talk to people with Facebook. It's insane. Like, my question is pretty serious.
I mean, this is
one.
the kind of crazy thing that it's like, what?
5 years ago. I'm not even kidding. I complain about it at work all the time.
Well, can you imagine how much worse this will be under the sort of Kamala puppet regime?
It's
going to be
crazy.
insane.
So
Yeah.
thank you
No,
for
definitely
buying
gonna lock
Twitter.
me up, that's for sure.
Like, I really appreciate you buying Twitter, and like you share memes on there now. So
Yeah.
my question is
buying Facebook is impossible. Zuckerberg has an equity structure that ensures that like his 16th descendant will still control it.
Lizard man. This is pretty serious. Have you ever seen Mark Cuban and Rachel Maddow in the same area at the same time, or
No,
could they possibly be the same person?
I think they might be the same person.
Hello, my name is Leslie Lockheed. I'm a senior pastor in the Ministry of Repentance and Holiness. It's a global ministry. And I'm also here as a mother and a grandmother. And I'm also here on behalf of people with disabilities. I'm very interested in all of your different inventions. I find them very fascinating, and I'm so grateful that you have that type of compassion. And I really want to thank your mother, because I know she's been a part of that
Yeah.
from a
No,
very young age.
My mom and my sister are great. So yeah, it's yeah, they're great people, and yeah, I mean, I love humanity. I think obviously we're not perfect, and we people do things that are bad at times, but on balance, I love humans and I love humanity. So
It's very evident.
yeah.
I thank you for your compassion. And now there are a lot of different issues that are so important to me personally, and I'm sure all of you share them. I've seen just horrendous things in the news from every type of issue, the homelessness, the things that have happened, the hurricane, the people in, the Carolinas and
Yeah.
all those 6 states and the sufferings that is going to continue. I'm very concerned about our fellow Americans there, and those who are yet, that are going to suffer from other natural disasters that are still in the making,
Sure.
and those who still haven't recovered from the ones before. So that's very important. I'm very concerned about the children and the grandchildren and the exposures that are really impressing, putting impressions upon them to lead them off in the very